right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming in tonight and joining us for the next live Poetry Jam Cabaret right here live at the Belmar Public Library. We have a couple of poets today. Myself, I have several poems to share. And we have with us a first-time poetry reader joining us tonight is Nancy Koenig right over here. She'll be stepping up and reading a couple of poems tonight, too. So, without further ado, let me get started with tonight's poems. The first one I'm going to do is one by James T. Fields. And James Thomas Fields was born in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. In 1838, he became a book publisher with the firm Ticknor and Fields, where he remained until 1870. He wrote several books, including at least 2 volumes of poetry, and his best-known poem is The Ballad of the Tempest. Fields also served as an editor of the Atlantic Monthly from 1861 to 1870. And the poem that I'll be reading tonight from James Thomas Fields is The Owl Critic. Who stuffed that white owl? No one spoke in the shop. The barber was busy and he couldn't stop. The customers, waiting their turns, were all reading the Daily, the Herald, the Post, little heeding the young man who blurted out such a blunt question. Not one raised a head or even made a suggestion. And the barber kept on shaving. "Don't you see, Mr. Brown?" cried the youth with a frown. "How wrong the whole thing is, how preposterous each wing is, how flattened the head is, how jammed down the neck is. In short, the whole owl, what an ignorant wreck 'tis. I make no apology. I've learned owl ecology. I've passed days and nights in 100 collections, and cannot be blinded to any deflections arising from unskillful fingers that fail to stuff a bird right from his beak to his tail. Mr. Brown, do take that bird down, or you'll soon be the laughingstock all over town." And the barber kept on shaving. "I've studied owls and the other night fowls, and I tell you what I know to be true. An owl cannot roost with his limbs so unloosed. No owl in this world ever had his claws curled, or ever had his legs slanted, or his bill canted, ever had his neck screwed into that attitude. He can't do it because 'tis against all bird laws. Anatomy teaches, ornithology preaches, an owl has a toe that can't turn out so. I've made the quiet owl my study for years, and to see such a job almost moves me to tears. Mr. Brown, I'm amazed you should be so gone crazed as to put up a bird in that posture absurd. To look at that owl really brings on a dizziness. The man who stuffed him don't know half his business." And the barber kept on shaving. "Examine those eyes. I'm filled with surprise. Taxidermists should pass off on you such poor glass. So unnatural they seem, they make Audubon scream, and John Burroughs laugh to encounter such chaff. Do take that bird down. Have him stuffed again, Brown." And the barber kept on shaving. "With some sawdust and bark, I could stuff in the dark an owl better than that. I can make an old hat look more like an owl than that horrid fowl, stuck up there so stiff like a side of coarse leather. In fact, about him there's not one natural feather." Just then, with a wink and a sly normal lurch, the owl very gravely got down from his perch, walked around and regarded his fault-finding critic, who thought he was stuffed, with a glance analytic, and then fairly hooted, as if he should say, "Your learning's at fault this time, anyway. Don't waste it again on a live bird, I pray. I'm an owl, you're another. Sir Critic, good day." And the barber kept on shaving. The Owl Critic by James Thomas Fields.
Very good, very good.
It's a great lesson in what happens if you assume, right? Never assume. The next poem I want to do is one written by one of our poets who had joined us earlier in the poetry jams, Vijay Joshi, and he wrote a poem called "Just Leave Us Be." And you just picture in your mind the setting of this poem is you're going to write a own poem. You need some words. And naturally you go to your library of books to find words, but you find that a mess on the floor is a whole bunch of words spilled all over that jumbled mess. And these are the words speaking to the writer. Just Leave Us Be by Vijay Joshi. Went looking for words to explore, found them scattered on the floor. Some with love, some with hate, some quite bland, some with taste. Some with joy, some with hope, some with lies on a slippery slope. Some quite serious, some had fun, some had respect, some had none. Some consenting, some dissenting, some rejoicing, some lamenting. Some pretty short, some pretty long, some quite weak, some quite strong. Some were ignored, some adored, some were amused, some bored. Like people, they breathe, they feel. If abused, they are hurt a great deal. As the poem was done only 2/3, I reached down to get more words. Suddenly words screamed in agony, stop the torture, spare the poetry. Free we are, scattered we might be. Leave us on the floor, just leave us be.
Very nice.
It's a nice one. I like that, you know. A recognition that, I guess, you know, used wrong, words can hurt. And I guess they don't like being used that way. That was pretty good by Vijay Joshi, who unfortunately was unable to join us tonight, but we hope to have him with us again soon. So those are my first two poems I have. I want to bring up our first time poetry reader with us today. Her name is Nancy Koenig with two poems here. Nancy, come on.
Hello there. Pleased to be here. The first time I came to or listened to a poetry jam on Zoom, I looked around in my house to try and find a poetry book to see what I could read. And the only thing I came up with was Dorothy Parker. And so I decided that in celebration of her birthday, because she was born August 22nd, 1893, and she was born just up the coast here in West End, a part of Long Branch. So I thought it a good idea to read one of her poems in honor of her birthday.
Okay.
So this poem appeared first in a collection called Enough Rope in 1926. And the name of it is Men. They hail you as their morning star because you are the way you are. If you return the sentiment, they'll try to make you different. And once they have you safe and sound, they want to change you all around. Your moods and ways, they put a curse on. They'll make of you another person. They cannot let you go your gait. They influence and educate. They'll alter all that they admired. They make me sick. They make me tired. Dorothy Parker was known for her little quips and her one-liners. The next one I'm going to read is probably one that everybody is familiar with or perhaps have heard at some point in their life. The name of it is News Item.
Okay.
Men seldom make passes at girls who wear glasses. Happy birthday, Dorothy Parker.
Wonderful.
Funny.
Dorothy was one of wit, a lot of wits, wasn't she?
Yes, she was.
Oh yes, no messing
Fun
with
reading
her.
about her life.
So my two poems that I have here, as some of you who have seen previous poetry jams before know, I like to read the lyrics to songs because in many times songs either began as poems or the lyrics themselves are poetic in their nature. And so when you listen to them stripped of the music and the melody, but you focus just on the words, sometimes it takes on a different meaning, or maybe you understand it more because maybe you hear the words spoken as opposed to sung, because sometimes you may mishear a word or two. And it still brings the same type of emotional attachment. So, of all the tales you'll hear in life, there's none so sad or teary as a lover's tale of woe. In 1850, Stephen Collins Foster married Jane Denny McDowell, whose nickname was Jenny. The marriage was short-lived, however, as the pair suffered numerous conflicts and ultimately separated in 1853. Perhaps in an attempt to win back his wife, Foster composed Jeannie with the Light Brown Hair in 1854. Arguably America's most beloved and popular melodist, Stephen Collins Foster became the nation's first truly great professional songwriter, managing to compose over 200 songs in his tragically short life. While today Jenny with the Light Brown Hair remains one of Foster's most beloved parlor ballads, the song was virtually unknown during its time. When it was first published, the royals on the 10,000 copies sold earned Foster just over $200. However, Foster, who experienced financial difficulty through most of his career, had to sell the rights to Janie, as well as other songs, including Old Folks at Home, to make ends meet. After his death at 36, the rights to Jenny with the Light Brown Hair reverted back to Jane and their daughter Marion in 1879. So here are the lyrics, the words, to Jeannie with the Light Brown Hair by Stephen Collins Foster. I dream of Jeannie with the light brown hair, born like a vapor on the summer air. I see her tripping where the bright streams play, happy as the daisies that dance on her way. Many were the wild notes her merry voice would pour, many were the blithe birds that warbled them o'er. Oh, I dream of Jeannie with the light brown hair, floating like a vapor on the soft summer air. I long for Jeannie with the day dawn smile, radiant in gladness, warm with a winning guile. I hear her melodies like joys gone by, sighing round my heart over the fond hopes that die, sighing like the night wind and sobbing like the rain, wail for the lost one that comes not again. Oh, I long for Jeannie, and my heart bows low, never more to find her where the bright waters flow. I sigh for Jeannie, but her light form strayed, far from the fond hearts round her native glade. Her smiles have vanished, and her sweet songs flown, flitting like the dreams that have cheered us and gone. Now the nodding wildflowers may wither on the shore, while her gentle fingers will cull them no more. Oh, I sigh for Jeannie with the light brown hair, floating like a vapor on the soft summer air. Stephen Collins Foster.
Very nice.
It's a great song. I mean, I listened to it on YouTube earlier today, and I just remembered how the melody is just so catching and so moving, and it's beautiful to learn that this is a story of love lost, of a love gone wrong, and it's so passionate and it has so much pain but joy as well. So that was a great one, and so I'm going to close today. This is going to be a quick poetry jam. But I'm going to close today with a redo of sorts Earlier, I think in the second poetry jam, Art Veo did Casey at the Bat. And Art had suggested to me that we start recycling some of these poems, because one of the beauty of poetry is to, by repeating it over and over again every so often, it kind of like it gives more opportunity for people to enjoy it. So he did Casey at the Bat by Ernest Lawrence Thayer. And so here we go. Casey at the Bat. The outlook wasn't brilliant for the Mudville Nine that day. The score stood 4-2 with but one more inning to play. And then when Cooney died at first and Barrows did the same, a sickly silence fell upon the patrons of the game. A straggling few got up to go in deep despair. The rest clung to that hope which springs eternal in the human breast. They thought if only Casey could get back, if only Casey could but get a whack at that. We'd put up even money now with Casey at the bat. But Flynn preceded Casey, as did also Jimmy Blake. The former was a Lulu, and the latter was a cake. So upon that stricken multitude grim melancholy sat, for there seemed but little chance of Casey's getting to the bat. But Flynn let drive a single to the wonderment of all, and Blake, the much despised, tore the cover off the ball. And when the dust had lifted and men saw what had occurred, there was Jimmy safe at second and Flynn a hugging third. Then from 5,000 throats and more there rose a lusty yell. It rumbled through the valley, it rattled in the dell. It knocked upon the mountain and recoiled upon the flat. For Casey, mighty Casey, was advancing to the bat. There was ease in Casey's manner as he stepped into his place. There was pride in Casey's bearing and a smile on Casey's face. And when, responding to the cheers, he lightly doffed his hat, no stranger in the crowd could doubt 'twas Casey at the bat. 10,000 eyes were on him as he rubbed his hands with dirt. 5,000 tongues applauded when he wiped them on his shirt. Then, while the writhing pitcher ground the ball into his hip, defiance gleamed in Casey's eye, a sneer curled Casey's lip. And now the leather-covered sphere came hurtling in the air, and Casey stood a-watching it in a haughty grandeur there. Close by the sturdy batsman the ball unheeded sped. That ain't my style, said Casey. Strike one, the umpire said. From the benches, black with people, there went up a muffled roar, like the beating of the storm waves on a stern and distant shore. Kill him! Kill the umpire! Shouted someone on the stand, and it's likely they'd have killed him had not Casey raised his hand. With a smile of Christian charity, great Casey's visage shone. He stilled the rising tumult, he bade the game go on. He signaled to the pitcher, and once more the spheroid flew, but Casey still ignored it, and the umpire said, strike two. Fraud! Cried the maddened thousands, and echo answered fraud. But one scornful look from Casey, and the audience was awed. They saw his face grow stern and cold, and saw his muscles strain, and they knew that Casey wouldn't let that ball go by again. The sneer is gone from Casey's lip. His teeth are clenched in hate. He pounds with cruel violence his bat upon the plate. And now the pitcher holds the ball, and now he lets it go. And now the air is shattered by the force of Casey's blow. Oh, somewhere in this favored land, the sun is shining bright. The band is playing somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light. And somewhere men are laughing, and somewhere children shout. But there is no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey struck out. Casey at the Bat by Ernest Lawrence Thayer.
Very
That's a
nice.
classic.
Very
That's
nice.
a classic. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. This is a lot. As you can see, it's a lot of fun doing these poems and reading them out and sharing them. And I want to thank Nancy Coney for coming to share a couple of poems from Dorothy Parker, a local poet of days gone by. If you want to join us to Joy Poetry, come on down. This is a free event for everybody, open to the public. Come on down, bring your own poetry or bring your own favorite poetry books to share with us. The next Poetry Jam is in Wednesday, August 18th. Yes, Wednesday, August 18th at 6 p.m. right here live at the library. You will also live stream it on Facebook, as you can see. And so I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you, Nancy, for coming today. And everybody, have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing you next time. So long.